call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Starting off, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting in regular session on January 6th.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes? And I am an abstention.
Right?
Yes. All right, next up is the financial report.
And we are still doing okay. We're plugging along here. We are, even with the ESSER grants, we're right about where we are between now and the rest of the year. We'll keep an eye on any additional sub-coverage or anything else that's needed we can use that grant for. And what'll likely happen is, my goal was to spend ESSER 2 by June 30th, and then we spend the next 2 years spending ESSER 3. So if everything goes well and we don't need it for any other staffing purposes, come April, we'll take a look and probably just get more technology with whatever money's left, get some extra, whatever we can get by June 30th, which at that point will probably be maybe another cart or so of Chromebooks, because the smart panels are not coming in fast enough. So, but we're in good shape for this year. And we can wait under new business, or you can choose to take it out of order if you want to talk about next year's budget. It is totally up to you. We just need to have a vote by the end of the night.
Preference?
Do it now?
Sure, I'll go now.
So, I haven't had any further questions, issues, or concerns. It's a little earlier to hear what's happening in the town, so I don't know where they're at with building their budget and what other departments are looking for. What I can say is, I recommend that we move to the March public hearing with this budget of $12,634,439, because it's a pretty decent, at 2.1%, it's a pretty decent first start. I think it's very small. And the state budget actually came out with some decent Chapter 70 increase for Sturbridge. So their Chapter 70 increase will probably cover the increase that we're asking for. So I think Sturbridge is in good shape.
Net neutral?
Yes, very well, maybe. Now again, Sturbridge has always more than funded minimum contribution with your budget. They've certainly funded what we asked for, and they're well above the net school spending. So in this particular year, having increased Chapter 70 and having this budget might allow them to do some of the things that they've been trying to do. But I don't know that. I don't know what else is going on. I just know at first pass, I think they can comfortably afford this without worrying about how to fund it. The good news, bad news, the good news is they are getting a bigger chunk. Usually, I think last year, all 5 elementary towns only got the minimum aid of $30 per student, which would have been just $25,000. So fortunately, due to a number of calculations, Sturbridge will get more in the foundation in Chapter 70 for 2 reasons. Increased enrollment, because the state didn't do us any favors last year and adjust for the COVID at-home folks. So enrollment's back up. Enrollment compared to last year for the foundation budget is up 42 students. The somewhat just sad fact is also that the foundation budgets are up because of the number of low-income students you have. So the low-income students you get more funding for. And Sturbridge went from 160 to 192. So that's a pretty decent bump to have 32 up and kicked into a higher funding category.
How are those declared? Is that from the census information?
Yeah, no, it's usually direct certified through a state portal, and they're usually getting some kind of assistance. Yeah. So, for those reasons, I do believe this is budget. We should at least move forward to March public hearing. My gut is it's going to be fundable in the end. It's a little early yet to see what's happening with Tantascwa. The snow last weekend pushed off their all-day budget. Usually it's a full Saturday. That's going to be this Saturday, so we'll see where that lands and share that. Larry Morrison, I think, is the elementary. I know he's still he's now Tantascwa back. I think he's doing schools in general. So I will see him on Saturday because he has reached out already to say he will be going to the Tantascwa meeting. I'll make sure he gets a copy of the Sturbridge budget and start picking his brain to see where they're at. But I think at this point we just need the vote to move into March, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Does anyone have any questions on any of the line items? I know you guys went through this last meeting.
Where does the trailer fit?
That is a separate article,
Okay.
not in the
Alright,
budget. We would never want to inflate the budget bottom line by something that much. It'd be nice to have it forever and a day, right?
Any questions? No. Okay. All right. I will make the motion then to go forward with the proposed budget for FY '23 of $12,634,439, increase over last year of 2.1%. Discussion? All in favor?
Okay, and then just while we're on the subject, the last note, typically, and new to Jenna, the public hearing is the same night as the regular school committee meeting, so we will post that, we'll have to go through a formal process. I believe what we did last year, since we start meeting at 6, is to get through as much business as possible and hold the public hearing at 6:30. Is that still okay for you all? That's what we'll do. Okay, thank you much.
Okay, next is communications, ESP successor.
Yes, so that, and we'll segue into another little conversation. So we did formally get the request. We knew that your Ed support staff was up this year. They have sent this. Kim has also reached out to me to say that they would like to do the interest-based bargaining, which has worked well in this building in the past. And I touched base with Lois Mason. I do have a number of March dates that are available from Lois who would facilitate it. I don't know that we have voted yet, or you folks have decided who would have the joy of negotiating.
We have not.
So at some point tonight now or later on, I would like you to kind of think through, and hopefully I could get 2 volunteers to sit through the process.
IBB, I'll
There you go.
volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary's done a number of Tantascwa. If it's IBB,
IBB is.
it's a really, it is a great, it's not.
I've been through it a couple
Yeah,
times.
I think Kristen and Kate have done them a couple of times. It's
Yeah.
definitely much more, cordial and
Well, having
typically we get it done in
last
1
year
day.
Yes.
Much
Yeah.
better.
So that's a good one. So your call, if Mary wants to,
Yeah, I mean,
your call, Kristen?
Thank you.
I enjoy it.
Would you like to jump in? It's a great experience, and they do go over a review of the process before you get into it.
Yep. So what will happen, exactly, Lois will say, who needs training? At the very, very beginning, there was like a 3 to 4 hour training session for everyone. A lot of people have already been through it, so she has sort of an abbreviated, and I'm sure some on the other team will need a little bit of training. So we'll set that up, whether it's the same day or a separate little quick training. But if I, at the end of the meeting, could chat with both of you and look at some potential dates, that would be great.
I think last we did it one evening.
Yeah.
It was like 5 and we were
Yeah.
by 10 or something.
Yeah, it's a great process.
Thank you both for volunteering.
All righty, that is it for communications.
Great, thank you. Next up is the principal's report. Mrs. Kelly.
As you'll see, our enrollment continues to creep up to our pre-pandemic levels of below 900, so we're thankful to see that. I want to thank Joshua and Olivia Williams for their generous donation of toys and $530 for future support of the Burgess families during the holiday season. We're currently in our middle of the year assessment schedule for benchmarks, and we have determined our dates for MCAS. ELA will be April 5th and 6th. We will follow the same format that we did last year, where we're going to test all 4 grade levels simultaneously. Math will be May 10th and 11th, and science, technology, and engineering for grade 5 will be the 17th and 18th. Access testing for English language learners is ongoing. Before I talk about kindergarten, I just want to point out all of the wonderful things that are happening in our grades throughout the school, and just credit the teachers for all of their hard work. Kindergarten registration is ongoing. I don't have the number of active registrations at this time, but it is more on par with a projected class of about 120. I am looking for your support to actually, as we did this past year, where we delayed the start for kindergarten. If you recall, I'll bring you back. But actually, let me go back to what we did pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, the first Friday in June, we would not hold kindergarten for the current enrolled kindergartners because we far exceed the time on learning minutes for our kindergartners. When we got to the beginning of this year, in the spring of last year, we requested your support to delay, instead of doing the June day, holding the children out, have the day, children not start on the 30th, I think. Not start on Tuesday the 30th, have 1 through 6 come in that day. It allows us to deploy our kindergarten support to help assist grades 1 through 6. On the 31st of August, we would host the open house for the incoming kindergartner like we have in the past. So we would have half of the grade level children and parents would go to the kindergarten classroom, meet the teacher. We would separate the children and the parents, just give them some time to get acclimated. Parents would come up here and have a presentation with me and staff. And then we would do the second half later in the day, with the start date for kindergarten to fall on Thursday the 1st. So it gives us just a smoother opening. I feel that having the open house and orientation in June, when they're 5 years old, and June to the end of August is a long period of time, they're not as familiar with the teacher. It just went for a very seamless opening day for our 1 through 6 and our kindergartens. Many districts do this because they can, because of the time on learning. So I would just ask for your support to move forward with that so that we can let families know so that they can plan.
And we'll try it one more year. We may come back after and say, we really love this. Now, we've done it twice. We kind of want to make it etched in stone. But it worked well. We'll try one more
Parent
time.
feedback was positive, staff
Yeah.
feedback was positive as well.
The initial screening is still.
Because we'll do placement, so children
Right,
will know,
right.
they'll know, I think the first week of August was the date that we notified families of their teaching, who their child's teacher would be. We could possibly do that earlier because of the circumstances not being as hectic this time.
Do you still do the bus ride in the parking lot?
We did the bus, we'll do the bus ride around, we did it last year as well, yeah, this
And
past year.
Did last year all the parents for those incoming kindergartners were here?
They were here, but they were held elsewhere. So we didn't have them in the classrooms because we couldn't at that time. And we didn't have a big gathering, but we will be planning for it to be a very typical open house orientation.
Okay. Any other discussion?
You can either take a formal vote or just sort of unanimous consent support is fine.
All
As
in
long as
favor?
no one has an issue with it, that's what we're going to do.
Orientation to the 31st.
Thank you. And one last thing, Paul Guerin has been very active in working with Mass DOT on Safe Routes to School and various other initiatives in his past placement. He worked with Butch Jackson, this highway supervisor, and collaboratively worked on 2 separate grants, but doing the grants together increased their likelihood of getting the grant. So Butch applied for Complete Streets Grant, which is actually going to put a sidewalk on Cedar Street from Route 20 to the Recreation Center, which is wonderful. That's really wonderful. So Butch had reached out to Paul and suggested that he do this Smart Routes to School and have them actually take the project and go from Cedar Street down Lower Burgess School Road. So there would be a sidewalk coming into the property. And they, Butch secured his grant at $385,000 and Paul secured his grant at $218,000. So we're very excited.
Yeah, it's great.
It'll be a number of years, we believe, till fruition. They're usually about 2 years out from the time that the grant process is happening to when they complete the project.
And we just got that a couple of days ago, so it's not even in your packet. I'll make sure you get a copy of the communication. Yeah.
Was this how
It's
it
good
went
stuff.
with the junior high sidewalk as well? Was that a similar?
It was a similar, it was a Safe Schools grant. It definitely was. And that one, Greg Sturgis pushed, and certainly when it came time to getting it, we again worked with Sturbridge DPW to find the right vendors and kind of went through there. But yep.
What was
yep.
the timing on that? It seemed like it was faster than 2
It
years.
definitely did was faster than 2 years, but it might be this whole Cedar Street thing. It's much bigger than just staying on the property. I don't know. But, and maybe we'll get lucky and come around.
That work goes to the school property.
Yeah.
This will be made.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's great.
Yeah, very excited.
good stuff.
Thank you, Mrs. Pellew. Superintendent's report.
Boy, and I don't have a ton to report. It's been a fairly quiet month. We did have, an awesome professional development day, as awesome as it could be, with kind of trying to divide things up and make sure everyone was safe. We did, as I believe most of you know, and Jenna more than anyone, start last week with the newest testing programs and protocols. So far, so good. We have now had 1 week of staff distribution, which I think it looks like kind of mid-80s is the number of staff here that chose to get the kids, and number, and 287 students last week got there.
Today.
Oh, today, oh God, I just totally skipped a week. That's right, they just got delivered this week and distributed, so they'll go home today. I think, if I understand correctly, in another week or two, we're at least going to start getting shipments once every 2 weeks instead of every week, because UPS has got to be getting a whole lot of money from someone, and in addition to the cost of the kits, where the shipments are going every week, and Erin Weeden is fantastic in helping order and organize this for us across the district. We tried so hard, and I hope we were successful here in making this not be a nurse endeavor, because it doesn't need to. The trade-off is we're no longer doing the contact tracing and the test and stay, which was just an enormous amount of time on the nurses. So when we gave that up for this new program, I said to the principals, the nurses should not need to distribute these things. This is an administrative task.
So we are blessed to have our parent-teacher helper group, and Christina LaFortune, who is the organizer at this point in time, was able to actually go to the junior central office, pick up the tests for the kids, and actually distribute those yesterday so that we could have them ready.
They go home with them through school.
Yes.
So 287 of
About a third.
863,
It's about
so 33% decided to, and they do this on their own from home?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
they, what's the, and then what?
They're just asked to notify the nurse if they test positive, the way we've been asking folks for the last year and a half. And
Which was
that's it.
starting to happen when we got back from December break anyways. It was starting to be, parents were calling, they were testing at home.
Well, because
Kids were
people are
having
getting
a-
sick. This
Yeah.
isn't because
Yeah.
kids are sick. This is
Yeah.
just like on a certain day every 2 weeks they
So
do
we're
it.
not
Every week.
setting, we're
Every
not
week.
setting a date where we are suggesting that a family pick a day. But obviously, if they start to have symptoms in advance of the day that their family chooses to obviously test.
Yeah, we actually did have, there are some districts out there that are saying the certain day every week, staff do it, and the certain day students, and we were like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't really make sense, because then I have the potential, especially from a staffing point of view, of having a handful of staffing all of a sudden out at the same time. And we're like, let them do whatever they want. They can stagger themselves. Ideally, yes, we would love both staff and students to be tested on kind of like a Thursday, Friday-ish, so that you're getting a weekend as opposed to Monday morning.
But whatever.
Monday morning is just the worst time to then have a student out for a week or staff out for a week. But
We'll see how it
so
goes.
far, again, we're not even 2 weeks into it, so we'll see what happens.
Committed through the end of April?
Yeah, Desi is committed to funding the program, yes, to the end of April. And,
So we'll see.
in a few weeks, we might send out reminders to families. If you want to opt out of your opt-in, let us know. We'll take you off the list.
Now, I do know they sent an email that said the last day to opt in was a certain date, but I know Desi said you can opt in at any time.
Right, so I'm not sure if your district did.
We're opting in
for-
whenever you darn well please.
Exactly.
That makes it very
Well, and then
difficult
for
to
the
track.
first week, we had a deadline. We needed to know how much to order. But throughout the whole process, anyone who wants to opt in can absolutely, we look at the spreadsheet every week before we order. But folks might say, I don't need them anymore. I don't want them anymore. Those who have had COVID are suggested not to test for 90 days unless you get symptoms. So we will send out communications to remind folks, if you want to get your name off the list, that's something you need to let us know. We don't have a form to go and give you an opt-out on the opt-in form. So we'll see how it goes.
And we're only reporting positive.
Absolutely. Yep.
How are we reporting them? Still through that, like the Tantasco site? Is that where the positives
And we
come
report to
from,
Desi.
or-
We put it on the site for our own information, for our district information, but it's Desi that each building reports. The nurse's office usually reports each week how many cases they've had.
Are we still doing that pool testing thing?
We are.
What's
I don't
the
know what day it does
participation of
here.
that?
What's the participation number? We
And
do
what do we
those
get for
Tuesday, but how
participation?
many? 40 to 50
Per week.
per week?
So we, yeah.
40 to 50.
So you're pool testing 40 to 50, but you have more people signed up.
We do.
Do you know how many you have signed up for it?
I think we have over 200, no, 240.
That's a combination of students and staff?
Yes. So we do some students and some staff that kind of go through grade levels.
Yeah.
And we alternate. over
So it's
a
sort of
3-week
almost
period.
on a somewhat organized lottery basis, but you've got maybe 240 people saying, I'm in, so at any given week, they may or may not be tested, but at least every few weeks, they likely are.
And they can opt out of that whenever they want as well.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. So that is pretty much it, and we just continue to plug along and see what they want to throw at us next.
I don't know if this is related to, I think you would know though, Deb, if that's not part of your report, is the percentage of like that 80% threshold that you were describing?
Yeah, and today's Thursday, is that maybe last week's
This
date?
is last
you
week,
know?
so it was the
Right.
27th of January.
There's already another one coming out.
So we're going to, just talking fully vaccinated, and our population being the 5 to 11-year-old, Sturbridge is at 28%.
That's pretty.
12 to 15, right, but just following the cycle, they're probably all getting ready for their second round, but their second shot.
How many with at least one?
At least one is 41%.
But that
That's what
includes,
I was
like,
wording, I would have guessed 40 to 50%.
It's Sturbridge, it's the town of Sturbridge.
Yeah.
It's, that the
And the 40
the population number is 952 in that 5 to 11-year-old category.
Which is about right. This building and a handful that choose to go to private school would be in that population. Yeah. So I would have guessed 40 to 50. It
In
didn't
the
get
single,
it there.
in the
but-
managed one.
And then we'll see, by the time we meet next, there should be another announcement on masking, because that mandate's only in place until February 28th. which is the day after February vacation. So, I know. I mean, I get you want to go to the end of the month, but someone didn't look at the calendar and see that's the first day of
So they
February
can say
vacation.
it's not safe to feel mandate. That's so unfortunate.
I'm not making any more predictions.
Exactly.
I know,
I'm
you
no
guys
longer
are
making
convinced
any
it was over.
predictions.
No, I'm not yet.
Whenever
No, I am
you- whenever you say
optimistic.
there's gonna be news, I'm like.
You are right. That's what I say. I'm optimistic. I like to believe everything on the news. I think we're finally there. And then I say, I have felt this way before, a couple of times. So,
Don't take any
No.
Super Bowl waiters. from
Exactly.
here. Okay.
so we will see.
It's the year of the Tigers.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right, anything else, Mrs. Boyd, or?
That is it for me this month. Unless you have anything else for me.
No other questions for us? Okay. All right, we're on to public access. Any public access tonight?
A rowdy public, but
Pensive and quiet tonight, okay? Subcommittee reports. Anything?
Yeah, we had a meeting, what, I thought was most exciting was that they're doing they did a math pilot for the junior high. And it was really interesting. I thought they're switching over, well, is it official? Yeah.
so the junior high
They've
for sure.
recommended, they've chosen.
I'll tell you, I believe the only thing the junior high is waiting for to make it official is the budget funding.
Okay.
But, I mean,
But it came down to two, and one was, what was it, half the price? I
Yeah.
think? The one that they chose was like the cheaper option.
which is always exciting when
And
it works
it's
out that
not-
way, but.
But they loved it.
Yeah.
The teachers that did it loved it. And it's gonna fall into
It is. It's
sixth
going to
grade as
sixth
well, because we
Yeah.
have 1 year left on our contract, which I think will be very nice to have some sort of a like,
Transition time,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's textbook based, it's not the workbook, so it's more old, like probably what we grew up with. Like,
As well as the online subscription.
Yes.
It's always going to be
And it comes with
technology.
IXL, like it has that tied into it. It seems like a really great
Yeah.
great
Sixth grade teachers
program.
piloted. That teacher here piloted the other program.
Oh,
that they
okay.
never went
Okay.
The sixth grade teachers that did pilot the adjunct program were definitely in favor of it.
Yeah,
So it was-
and ours felt the same way, not so crazy about the other one.
Right.
Is that right? It seemed across the board. It was
Yeah.
like, it wasn't even close.
Did they survey the kids?
They did. They didn't have, did they have the results for the sixth grade maybe?
I'm not sure on the 6th.
They have random, yeah, they said they could get all of them, but basically the one that was textbook, the other one was very wordy. And they said that like some kids who have a struggle even with just like reading in general, like there are, like this was added back into the math. So then it was like not only did they struggle in reading, but now they were struggling in math because there's so much reading in it. And it was using really difficult words and like it was very complicated from what they said. And the other one was just straightforward. You're gonna have a book. You're gonna be able to go back in the book and there's more examples. And that was the other thing they said. There was only like one or two examples, like of each. There was like one example of each kind of problem, and then that's it. You didn't get that one. Whereas the new one has multiple
Different ways of
examples.
looking at it.
It seemed exciting. As
Yes.
a parent of a kid who loved math and then went to the high school and got hit in the face with like a wall because it's fast and it's different and
And it will be great. I mean, middle school has always been a struggle. Those 2 years of transition is tough in our district because typically a middle school is 5th through 8 or 6th through 8 at least. So the junior high math has been a struggle, and they kind of, I would think, to paraphrase for them, or they would report, they sort of went along with Go Math as opposed to loved Go Math because we wanted to have a good transition. But the product they've been using is going away. Go Math ultimately is going away, and we'll need to be doing something here, even at the lower levels, in another couple of years. But to get this 6 through 8 product and get sixth graders involved, sixth grade teachers anyway, and the students, was good. I think it'll be absolutely, regardless of what happens K through 5, to have this consistency from 6 to 8 within another year will be really good. And the junior high seems very excited about
Yeah,
it.
they were very
So
excited about it.
I would consider it a done deal. They're just
Yeah.
You can be
waiting.
excited about math.
I know.
Well,
Well, and they
exactly.
also had the high school teacher come in and sort of weigh in on it, so there's like the transition
Both
hopefully
sides,
on
yeah.
both sides.
Yeah.
that
Nice.
Yeah.
is gonna work well.
So yeah, that was
Yeah, it was,
kind of the crux of it there. There was a fairly
yeah,
short
I mean, the
meeting.
other thing I thought was, interesting and exciting, again, maybe just to me, because I'm gonna be going to school next year, but there's new guidance, head of guidance at the high school, and they've already started, like, they had a week where they were just celebrating the kids' choices, and they had, it's like a 2-minute decision day or something, or
Decision day,
10-minute
yeah.
decision day. It's something where if a kid doesn't really know and their family's not like really driving the college process, they can go and meet with these different local colleges, and they will sit with them, I think for like, I can't remember if it's 2 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's say 10.
It's like,
And they